Welcome to Soundbite, the podcast where we talk about the topics that are on people's minds in New Brunswick and Canada and learn more about the experts on those topics. I'm Caitlin Dutt, one of your co-hosts.
And I'm Tim Porter. Hi, Caitlin. How's your week going?
Hi, Tim. It's going pretty good, you know.
Yeah.
It's a little bit rainy out, but that seems to be a pattern lately, so I'm just embracing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're wrapping up your school, I hear.
Yeah. I wrapped everything up on Tuesday. Unfortunately, missed the opening of the Porter O'Brien St. John office.
Oh, yes.
Due to that.
Yes,
but
we did miss you.
Yeah. I missed those cookies. Saw the logoed cookies.
We got a few left, so.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Duly noted.
I didn't hear that they, well, I guess they're okay. I haven't tried one myself.
Okay.
Can't speak for it.
I might have to grab one of those today.
So I hear we have a guest who's a work colleague in from Ottawa.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have him on the podcast.
Yeah, we don't really know him very well because he's here orienting himself, right?
So what better way to get to know our new colleague than to put him on the podcast?
He's all of 2 weeks in. So who is our guest?
Yeah, so our new guest is Vincent. Would you like to tell us a bit about yourself?
Of course. So as you mentioned, I'm Vincent Desmarais-Adam. I'm a recovering staffer. After almost 8 years in federal politics, I started as an humble intern in the Senate and worked my way all the way to the Prime Minister's office. And I'm very happy to be in Fredericton for the very first time.
Yeah. How do you like Fredericton?
It's a beautiful city. Beautiful city. I hope I'll be back.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, everybody, I don't know if you've heard this, but people in Fredericton say that Ottawa and Fredericton have this connection. They say that Ottawa is the bigger Fredericton and Fredericton is like a small Ottawa. Do you ever hear that?
I could see that. I've never heard that before, but I could see that.
Okay.
College town, government town. Yeah.
That's very true. That's kind of funny that it's only a Fredericton saying, though. It's good to know. I've always wondered if it goes both ways, you know?
I'll bring that with me to Ottawa.
Yeah. Yes. Please do.
So I understand you were working on the election campaign.
I was.
Last few months?
I was. An interesting experience, one that I would recommend to anyone, right? There's no better way to get involved in your community than being involved in a campaign.
And we're all political nerds here, so, you know.
So it would make sense.
Pretty exciting gig.
What kind of work did you do?
So I was part of the issues management team. I was an issues manager on the campaign. And it was a pretty interesting experience working at headquarters during, this comeback campaign for the Liberal. It was a roller coaster of emotion. We had, we have to remember that no one really expected the Liberal government to make this kind of resurgence.
Yeah.
So it was a great experience. Some of my colleagues within the party would have been very happy if we would have had, hold the Conservative to a minority. So during the campaign, when we saw the momentum going, it was a wonderful experience, one that I think I'll remember forever.
So tell us about issues management. What exactly does that entail?
Yeah, it's a bit of an umbrella term, I would say. But overall, I think when I first started in politics, my first director told me, you're in charge of cleanup. That's what an issues manager does. You'll get an email, clean up in aisle 5. Bad headline. There's a bad report coming out. It is your job to be aware of that and to propose to the team, a crisis management plan. How are we going to answer to this bad report? What do we want to highlight in the report that is favorable, that we want to push forward to kind of minimize some of the bad element with it? So it's a fascinating job. It's a job where you do a little bit of policy, a little bit of comms, a little bit of parl. it's a demanding job. Those are long hours. You're often the first one in the office, especially if you also are in charge of question period. You get in the office bright and early. You do your media scan, and then you're often the last one to leave because you're also supporting the team on committee business, and often those committee runs late. So it's a demanding job. But it's a wonderful job. I think that was my first one into politics, and it was a great experience.
What kind of issues did you have to navigate during this campaign?
That's what I was going to ask too.
During the campaign. So thankfully, I will say, at least from the inside, most of the issue that we had did not break the surface. I think
that says that you're doing a good job, right?
It's exactly. I think our biggest task on the issues team during the campaign was also to dig dirt on the opposition. And this is where I think we did a very good job in finding those, old tweets from 2012 for, candidates in across the country. But to answer your question, I think the issues that I think was the best managed from our team, during the campaign, the Conservative really attacked Prime Minister Carney over his connection with Brookfield, saying that he was just another boardroom millionaire. And they were pretty vocal about it. So what we've done, we've looked into the public disclosure of all the Conservative caucus and find whose MP had individual stock share in Brookfield. And we talked to our comms colleague, and we will send that to the media. And then suddenly, every time the Conservative were talking about Brookfield, they had to defend the fact that on one hand, they were attacking Brookfield, but on the other hand, they were profiting from that company by being shareholders. So that was one way we mitigated that issue, is by just putting them on their back foot.
Yeah, okay. That's super cool.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Okay, so you were in issues management, but before that, you also worked in the Prime Minister's office.
Yes.
So as we all know and are aware of, it was a little bit of a tumultuous time near the end, going into, fall 2024. There was quite a few MPs that were calling for Trudeau to resign due to a massive decrease in popularity. What was it like working in the Prime Minister's office during that time?
Yeah, it was a challenging time, I think, no doubt about that. But it was also a very human moment for all of us working at the Prime Minister's office, because working for Prime Minister Trudeau during that period meant, navigating both the intense loyalty many of us felt toward the Prime Minister, but also the growing conversation within the party about the need for change and the need for renewal. So it was navigating that fine line, and remembering that at the end of the day, you're also running a country, right? And at one point, the pressure was significant, where our ability to run the country was diminished because we had constantly to fight fire internally.
Right.
And that
a
was
lot of filibustering too.
A lot of filibustering, but also caucus was not happy. And when caucus is not happy, they're not helping. They don't want to stand out at committee. They don't want to do late night votes. They don't want to speak on bill, and that jeopardizes your ability to then do your job appropriately. So that was one of the big challenges that we had by the end. So it was an interesting time for all of us, and it was also a very emotional time, I think I would say, for all of us.
It must have been quite shocking when Minister Freeland resigned.
It was. I remember that day vividly. It was the day where she was to table the fall economic statement.
Yeah.
And I get to work around 8:30. I open my Twitter. I do my little feed, and I see Krista Freeland tweeted. I'm like, oh, she tweeted something. I'm like, too long to read. I'll read that a little bit later when I have the time. And then the phones start ringing, and then they're like, "Have you seen the tweet? Have you seen the tweet?" And I'm like, "Oh." So it was an interesting day because the fall economic statement had to be tabled, so we had to manage that crisis, but also managing caucus who were expecting the fall economic statement to be tabled. We had to find a minister who would table the fall economic statement. So a lot of fire happening at the same time on a day that was, already supposed to be very, very busy.
Okay. Yeah.
How long did you work for Justin Trudeau?
I worked for him a little bit under 2 years, and I worked for Prime Minister Carney for a little bit over 2 months.
Oh, okay.
Right. So
Very different people.
Very,
Yeah.
very different people. Yeah.
So I was wondering, like, I know you've only worked for, Prime Minister Carney for 2 months, but did you notice a difference between Justin Trudeau and Mark Carney and their?
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. So, both of them, in my view, share a deep sense of duty for the country. Prime Minister Trudeau stepped in after nearly a decade of conservative government, right? And that had rolled back environmental protection / military spending and had muzzled federal scientists. So his leadership was about optimism and, investing in Canadian and reestablishing a progressive vision, for what was later known as the Sunny Ways.
Right.
And Carney, on the other hand, entered politics out of a similar sense of responsibility, but for a very different reason. The country was facing the existential threat of the return of Donald Trump. So both of them entered politics and took on this job of prime minister as a sense of duty for the nation. So I think they're very similar in that way. But they are also very different, right? Prime Minister Trudeau often allowed a lot of flexibility and trust within his team. And Prime Minister Carney is famously punctual. He's a no-nonsense, very detail-oriented type of guy. He has zero tolerance for sloppy work, even at the ministerial level. And I think one good example of that is, how rigorous he is when he first became prime minister, we were all politely reminded that British spelling was the only type of spelling. So he's very detail-oriented in that way. But he's also, and he said it many times, that he's a pragmatic technocrat. He's not a politician. And he has a proven record of crisis management, as a central banker. Well, Prime Minister Trudeau, on the other hand, was a very more of a personality-driven type of leader. So in that way, I would say both of them are very different.
So you had to go out and buy some Oxford dictionaries.
Well, nowadays, Tim, all of that is online.
Is it? I still have mine. It's quite large, actually.
Yeah, I feel like there's
they are.
They're sizable.
So, tell us a little bit about Justin Trudeau. Did you get to know him at all working in his office?
Yeah, so I was very privileged in briefing him for question period. So twice a week, we would have me, my team and I and him, like an hour, 45 minutes to an hour if we were lucky. Sometimes more like 20, 30 minutes of like one-on-one time with him where we would prep him for question period. And he was a very great boss to work with. He knew our names. He knew, he knew our partners. He would make jokes. Once he trusted you really felt empowered with that trust. And yeah, he was very, very likable. Once you knew him kind of behind closed door, he was a great boss to work with. And I'll be always very thankful for that.
So you're from Montreal. Did you get to know him in Montreal, like during the campaign?
No, but every Quebecer knew who Pierre-Elliott Trudeau and his son were.
Right.
So I never had met him in person until I worked for him.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So when you were briefing him for question period, did you have any issues that you focused on that were your specialty?
So the way we would do it, each member of the team had an area of expertise. So what I would do in the morning would be send a list of issues, being like, we need to be prepared for X topic or like this headline. And then the relevant advisor who has the knowledge of the file would then write, an answer, a QP card that we would call. And then during the prep, we would go over, be like, here's all the issues that we're expecting. And then we would run the QP card by him. And then it would be kind of a back and forth. We would ask him mock question, and then he would read the card and be like, well, do I like to say it that way, or like what's coming instinctively to him, and then we would rewrite them. And so it was a lot of a back and forth in a very collaborative atmosphere in which we he would answer the question the way he wanted to, and then we would give him some pointers, like, don't say that, or that's a bit too long, have you thought about this, and that back and forth would go on for about an hour until he felt ready to go, and then he would bring him to question period, and then it would be up to him.
Cool. Yeah. So, I mean, having worked within government for a while, I mean, the news media, they pick and choose sometimes the topics that are talked about. Do you think there's anything that you think should be more talked about?
In what way?
Just like more covered by the news media, or something that really interests you that you think is a cool thing that the government's doing.
Yeah.
What are we missing?
What are you missing? There is a lot of cool things that the government is doing. I think people don't realize how efficient the government can be at doing things. One of the first files that I worked on when I was back at Natural Resources was the critical mineral strategy, which I think has kind of flown under the radar. But Canada is a critical mineral superpower.
Yeah, that's hitting the news now for
Yeah,
sure.
for now. But a few years ago when we launched that strategy, if you were not in the industry, why would you have cared? But it's an entire policy and a strategy that is created to make Canada, a superpower. As countries are developing, renewable energy and AI and, electrifying their grid, all of that will require very specific material, and Canada is lucky to have all of those, or most of those. So it was an entire strategy built around how do we facilitate, the mining of those, but also the transports of those, because often the mines are, in very remote locations. So how do you then transport those to a places where they could be treated and refined and then shipped? So it was a very extensive strategy, and I think that was Minister Wilkinson kind of pride moment, and that kind of flew under the radar, and I found that to be very sad.
Yeah,
Right.
the Premier of New Brunswick has been talking about that quite a bit lately herself. I think they've launched also a strategy or preparing for one. And, whether it be from car batteries to
lithium,
energy,
to energy, everything.
whatever it needs, components are needed, yes.
Oh, that's good to know that, you guys were kind of ahead of the curve on that one too. Yeah. So kind of taking it back a little bit to, the fall/winter of 2024. I know we talked a little bit about the moment of Chrystia Freeland's resignation. What about Justin Trudeau's resignation in early January? Like, I did not see that coming. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah. Did we see it coming? I think deep down we did, because it felt inevitable. At that point, like in January, the pressure he was under was just not sustainable. That said, it was still a sad day for all the people at the Prime Minister's office. The Prime Minister resignation came, after, like you said, the Deputy Prime Minister had resigned. There was caucus was quite vocal about it. And so his resignation kind of marked the end of a chapter. It marked the end of relationships within the Prime Minister's office. It marked the end of the momentum. And it also marked the end of a certain stability for the staff, right? Like, there is always uncertainty for staff at moment like that, because we work at the pleasure of the Prime Minister. But by then, he had faced months of relentless pressure. So I think we all saw it coming, but it didn't make that day much easier.
Right. Yeah. So you talked about, he was a great boss.
Yeah.
And, like any regular employee working for someone who you have come to, care about and things like that, it's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, it's such an intense environment. And you work long hours and you work, often on the weekend. The people that you work with, to some degree, becomes friends and becomes a little bit part of your little family. So when you know that this will come to an end, because with a new Prime Minister comes a new team, you take it a little bit personally, but it's part of the job, and we all took that job knowing that that was the risk of it. So you're always also very mindful of that.
Yeah. Taking it to another moment, perhaps more positive than the resignation. How was it? I'm not sure exactly where you were the moment of election night, but how was it to find out that he was going to win the government, win another mandate?
So I was at an election viewing party, which is a very Ottawa thing to do.
Nice. Yeah.
But I think like many Liberals, election night felt like the end of a 4-month-long roller coaster ride. Because back in January, the conversation was very much about the historic conservative majority that would have formed government, and yet on election night we came incredibly close of winning one ourselves.
Yeah.
So for me, Carney's victory was above all a huge sense of relief. Yes, I think some of my colleagues were a little bit disappointed that we fell just short of a majority.
So close.
So close. So close. But I think I was mostly focused on kind of the bigger picture, which was that we had formed government against all odds, and that to a certain degree kind of the legacy was protected. One of our biggest fear was that a conservative government would then have cut childcare and dental care and pharma care. At least now we knew that legacy would be protected. And I think what was interesting about that night is that it marked a shift in the political landscape in Canada. Nearly 80% of Canadians voted for just two parties. So whether that becomes kind of a new norm or just, was it simply a reflection of the unique political moment that remained to be seen. But it was a wonderful night.
Okay, that's great. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're going to be doing? You're joining the Porter O'Brien team in Ottawa. Tell us a little bit about what you're going to be doing.
Yeah, so I've joined Porter O'Brien about 2 weeks ago.
Welcome.
Those cookies was delicious, by the way, at the St. John office.
I definitely gotta try them now.
I'll be senior associate on the government relation team, so supporting businesses and organizations and a variety of clients dealing with the very obscure federal government. So I'm looking forward to working with all of you guys.
So you're going to be working with clients to give them some guidance in terms of
provide them some guidance, pointers, who to get in touch to, the federal government is a big machine. So it's always useful to have someone on your side that can point you to the right direction, that is aware of the new programs that are available for funding, and that can support you in whatever you need to achieve your objectives. And that I think what's we can offer to our clients.
Yeah, and you're definitely a great asset, having worked with the federal government for so long and knowing the intricacies of how that machine works. All right, so I do have one more question for you, a fun one. How late did you stay up on election night? Because I think I stayed up until 2 a.m. because they never really officially called it.
Yeah, so I went to bed around midnight.
Okay.
I've missed a party. My partner and I went to bed earlier than that because it always takes a few days.
Yeah,
and I'm like, there will be some judicial recounts. There will be a variety of things.
And there were,
they were. Yeah. So I was like, I'm not gonna miss much. I'll get the news, whether it's a good news or bad news, the next day when I wake up.
All right, that's a wise decision. I don't know how late you stayed up, Tim. Was it pretty late?
I think it was around the same, maybe. But just wake up early and see what happened over the 4 or 5 hours that you're asleep. But
I was definitely a little sleep deprived the next day, I think.
Right.
Yeah. I do have one more question for Vince. And I think you might have a little bit of wisdom on this, or at least I'm hoping so. But in your opinion, how can liberals hold power for another term? It does seem to be pretty tenuous at this point in time because, conservatives, they were a good 20 points ahead in the fall. So who's to say they can't go back to that?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I think a lot of people voted for Mark Carney despite not fully aligning with him politically. I'm thinking of a lot of the NDP voters who switched over, a lot of the Quebecers who might have otherwise supported the Bloc Québécois. Many of them voted strategically to stop Pierre Poilievre and to send a clear message to Donald Trump. That means Carney is now leading a very broad and fragile coalition. And so holding that support will be a real challenge for him because expectations are high. He campaigned on on very big ideas, on bold ambition, and now the focus has to shift from his vision to the delivery of those ambitions. And so to keep that coalition intact and then have a chance of winning a fourth term, the government will probably need to zero in on the centrist suburban voter in key battleground in the GTA, in Vancouver, in some of the Quebec, swing riding. That means emphasizing, pragmatic, result-driven policies, especially on the cost of living, on housing, and on economic stability. Areas where in the last few years, Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative, have made significant gain. Mm-hmm. And so for this government, if the government can show tangible progress quickly to Canadian, he has a real shot of keeping that support, and then he will be probably on a more stable ground to win a second term.
Yeah.
So the Prime Minister didn't make it to 36 Princess Street this week in St. John when we opened our office.
Yeah.
Because he was a little busy in Alberta with the G7.
Just a little bit.
He seemed
competing priorities.
Yeah.
He didn't want to leave early like Trump did.
but he seemed to do well at that.
Yeah, I think he's very good in those types of environment. He was a central banker. So he's very good in those types of environment. And I think this is where, as a leader, Canada is a G7 country, as a leader, he can really show his mark. He said during the campaign multiple times, wherever the United States will step back, Canada will step in. And I think the world stage is one of those stages where Canada can really make a difference.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Plus, he has so many connections. I mean,
he's got
the
Rolodex must
resume.
be impressive.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
And President Trump seems to respect him.
Yeah. My theory on that, I think, is power respects power. And yeah, I mean, he knows that he went to Oxford, he went to Harvard, he was governor of the Bank of Canada, governor of the Bank of England. It goes on and on.
He said it during their first meeting in the Oval Office. I think he said it to him that it's someone that he had admired for a long time. Where does that admiration come from? I don't know, but I don't think it can harm in the current context.
Yeah.
So
Vince, you missed us, and we all came to Ottawa.
Just for me.
2 weeks ago, was it?
Yeah, it was already 2 weeks ago.
And I guess you were on vacation. But, did you have a good time, Caitlin?
Yes.
In Ottawa?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, the feedback came through last week, too. We got great reviews.
Oh, did we? Yeah?
Yeah.
What did people like?
People like the team bonding the most.
Oh, the bonding. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
The group hugs.
What was that?
The group hugs.
Yeah, the group hugs.
Yeah. No, but beyond bonding, what other activities did people like?
Yeah, we had a Senate tour, so we got a contact in there who gave us a kind of behind the scenes. We were able to go on the Senate floor, which was very cool.
It's such a beautiful building.
It is. It's a really cool.
The clerk of the Senate, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Yeah. We also got to go and visit the House of Commons in the West Block, which is very cool because they had to, completely build a new House of Commons while they're, renovating Center Block.
Yeah, and we saw a question period.
Yeah, saw a question period. So I think that those were highlights for everybody.
You saw the Prime Minister. Prime Minister was answering questions.
Yeah, he seemed to be enjoying himself.
Yes.
Which I thought was pretty funny.
And we saw some of our New Brunswick MPs.
Yeah.
on the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We did.
Wayne
we
Long
did.
and David Miles and
Dominic LeBlanc.
Dominic,
Yeah.
Dominic's there.
Yeah.
So we were talking, Vince, in the car on the way up here about the remodeling of Parliament and the Senate over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And it's quite a feat.
It is. It's a few years ago they were saying it was a 10-year-long process, but you know how those projects are.
Yeah.
It'll take a few more than 10 years.
Probably.
Oh, okay. It's going to be. I didn't realize it was going to be that long.
Oh
but-
yeah. It's a massive, and it's also because it's an historic building.
Gotta be careful.
You got to be careful. You cannot do whatever you want, right? And everything needs to be, every rock needs to be
Right.
carefully.
So they moved the Senate into the old train station.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful building.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And I also noticed when we were on Parliament Hill, they had recently redone the roofs of the building. So, they don't have the green tint anymore. It's like new copper.
Well, actually, yeah, that actually happens because they did the legislature in New Brunswick the same way. Like back a few years ago, they had to redo the roof. So it eventually does turn green.
Yeah, exactly. We'll just have to wait a
just
couple
over
more
time.
years.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how long, or how quickly it takes to turn to green, but
Yeah.
it shouldn't be too long before the postcard matches the actual,
Right.
the actual Parliament Hill again.
Because they're copper, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
But in terms of the House of Commons, they moved it off to the side in the West Block.
Yep.
And it's basically it used to be
It was a courtyard.
outside
Yeah.
courtyard,
Which
yeah.
is interesting because it used to be a courtyard, some offices that I'm assuming were prime offices with wonderful views from the courtyard now have views of the gallery.
Right. Well, it's a pro or a con
Yeah.
depending on how you look at it. You can get all the action by just looking right over there to your right. But I thought it was really impressive. Like it's hard to explain. They don't let you take any pictures in there either, so I just got a postcard so I would remember how it looked. But it's kind of almost like a black box on the outside, like sitting in this courtyard with like an open top, and the galleries around it, and then you have all the House of Commons. I'm not sure how many like actual benches and like that sort of historical stuff that they moved in there. They did some of that for the Senate, I believe, because that was what our tour guide said. But I thought it was just very cool. Yeah, almost like bulletproof black box sort of thing.
Yeah, I've been to the House of Commons before, but I don't recall, and maybe it's with the renovations that they do this, but I don't recall all of the kind of the queuing up of people that were coming for the
Yeah.
gallery and all the lines and the waiting, and
Yeah.
I don't recall that from previous visits, but
It might just be like the novelty of like a new prime minister. People want to see the new PM. I don't know.
right, no,
But I felt bad because I remember we were a group of like 15, 16 people, and 3 of us were let in like way before you guys. I kept looking over. I was
Oh,
like,
yes, you did jump ahead. I
Yeah.
noticed that. Yeah. Well, because they were moving us in elevators and
Yeah.
various things, very controlled.
Yeah, which makes sense. I mean,
Right.
you never
yeah,
know.
Yeah.
I have to
All
do a
right.
whole
Well, we
sweep.
won't blame Vince for all this.
No, that's
Sure.
that's beyond his pay grade.
That was beyond my control. But
Okay.
Yeah, but
All right. So it was a good visit nonetheless, I guess.
Exactly.
Yes.
It was very cool. And
Yeah.
hope to be back soon.
Right.
And then maybe Vince can give us a special tour with his connections.
Yes. Vince will be the tour guide next time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I'll do my best.
Yeah.
I'll do my best.
All right. Well, it's great getting to know you, Vince. And,
Thank you for having me.
You're in town till tomorrow.
Yep.
Well, we're recording on a Thursday, so
Yeah.
Vince is heading back Friday.
By the time you all hear this, he'll be long gone.
He'll be gone.
Yeah.
But anyway, thanks for coming, and we're very excited to have you on the podcast. And I hope you can just hold on a minute. Maybe we'll take a selfie.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Vincent. This was very informative.
Thank you.
Very cool.
Thank you for
All
having
right.
me. It's always a pleasure.
All right. Thanks.
Bye. You've been listening to Soundbite, a production of Porter O'Brien and 97.9 CHSR. Thanks to CHSR, our podcast host, and March Rojas Velasquez, our podcast editor. You can find episodes on Spotify every Friday.